stories from around the corner
and around the country.
You're listening to All the Best.
Proudly supported by the Art Gallery of New South Wales.
You're listening to All the Best from FBI Radio 94.5. I'm Madhura Prakash. Before we get into this week's stories, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that I'm recording from stolen Gadigal land and pay my respect to Gadigal elders past and present, and also recognise that the area where FBI Radio is situated, Redfern, has long been a place of storytelling, strength, resistance and resilience for First Nations communities. You're listening to All the Best from FBI Radio 94.5. I'm Madhura Prakash. This week, stories about reclaiming public spaces. Our first piece today is an interview with an absolute icon of the local art scene here in Sydney. Derriere is a mesmerising performer and host and the creator of Big Thick Energy. On top of that, they are a body image activist and disability advocate who is super sick of the lack of accessibility in the performance space.
Derriere is a performance artist and founder of Big Thick Energy, a space curated to promote body positivity and liberation through movement, creativity, and community. They're also hard of hearing. I met Demon when entering an artwork for an exhibition they held last year. As a disabled artist myself, I was really interested in how Demon's disability has shaped their life and work as an artist.
I grew up hard of hearing deaf in the left ear, and I remember when I think about me being a child and my deafness, I always remember forever being in this little box with toys and doing hearing tests and doing surgeries on my ear and things like that. And I remember that so vividly. And you're always doing those lovely hearing tests where you press the button, beep, 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 you move the toy if you hear a sound, etc. But in that time that I grew up in the 80s, 90s, schools, teachers, doctors didn't have the resources to care for people like me, because it's either you're completely deaf or you're hearing.
There's almost no in between because people haven't realised it's a spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. So they just go, it's black or white. And so I remember growing up always getting in trouble by my teacher and always having those parent-teacher interviews where the teacher would always say, she was a naughty child, she gets easily disrupted, she doesn't listen to me, so she disturbs everyone else. And the reality is I couldn't hear what was going on, so of course I'd run amok because I'm like, well, I can't hear, so I'm just going to do my own thing. But no one realised that what I actually needed was assistance. I needed to sit at the front, I needed to see mouths, especially back then teachers were always just looking at the blackboard. So I'm like, I can't hear anything. I couldn't hear enough. So I missed out a lot.
Right.
I also then remember during primary school, I would be so bullied by kids because kids are not nice. Kids would always come up to me and whisper in my left ear and say mean things because they knew that I wouldn't hear it. And then I remember seeing all the other kids around me laughing ha ha, and I was like, what is going on? And in the end, I figured out it's because they were teasing me. But that was consistent all throughout primary school and high school. I still didn't identify as deaf or hard of hearing. I hadn't heard the term hard of hearing. I'd only heard of deaf. And then probably year 5, year 6, I started to engage more with the deaf community because I had other deaf friends. Deaf meaning completely deaf. And so I was exposed to folks who were deaf, hard of hearing, again, still not knowing that term, and experiencing Auslan for the first time.
Yeah.
And then so that's when I got a taste of the deaf community. I learned a little bit more, but it wasn't until my adulthood was when I actually heard the term hard of hearing for the first time. And I think what made me pay more attention to it was about 7 or 8 years ago. I had another hearing test as an adult, and saw a specialist, and he advised me that I have otosclerosis.
Otosclerosis is a form of abnormal bone growth within the middle ear that causes progressive hearing loss.
And now told me that my right ear is now affected. And that like rocked my world. Like it shifted my world. I was like, what the hell is going on? Told me like we can do 2 surgeries, but it means no more dancing, no more XYZ, because your equilibrium, your balance is completely messed up. And I didn't want to stop dancing, but I was like, I got to find another way. And that's when I was like, okay, let's officially learn more Auslan.
So I know your dad has a cochlear implant. I was wondering if you use hearing aids or have an implant yourself.
I don't have a cochlea. I've had I've done test runs with hearing aids. I actually have to try on the newborn hearing aids because of how small, I know it's so cute, but because of how small my ears and the ear canal is, adult size hearing aids like hurt me. Wow. And I just found them very uncomfortable. I tried the hearing aids and I didn't enjoy them. Yeah. I don't like the feeling. I don't like the sensation you get of like the air and the hair and things like that and brushing past it, especially while I was dancing. Yeah. And so probably the last 5 years of my life, I've just accepted the fact that I can't hear certain things. I can't move the same way. And especially like as a performer, I'm like, oh, I'm going to miss music cues. But I've accepted that now. Whereas before I used to get so beat up by it, I used to just come off stage crying. And I was like, what am I, do I just quit? Or like, why do I perform? Like, should I just give up? And also if you like go back years ago, then I would never speak on a mic because I can't hear myself. Right. And I just get really paranoid. So anytime anyone was like, talking to Mike, I was like, no, thank you.
That makes sense.
And I steered clear of that for so long. Yeah. And then probably maybe just the past 2 years is when I started hosting and talking into a mic with confidence and realised I'm like, I don't care if I don't hear.
Your dad has a cochlear implant. Is deafness something that runs in your family?
Yeah, doctors have said that.
Okay.
But, I come from Wog Arab families, immigrants, they never, we're loud, we scream all the time. So we don't think anything of it. We're just like, we're just loud, we're passionate, that's how we talk. It's actually because we can't bloody hear a thing. But no one wants to get that checked out. But I've had a lot of doctors say it to me. And the same with on my mum's side, my papu, he doesn't have the best hearing either. But again, like they would never say, I'm deaf or I'm hard of hearing or I need to do something about this because, Wog too proud.
Do you incorporate deafness into your performances in any way?
I guess the more subtle ways of me incorporating my deafness in my performances is me not following the music.
Or is it also you following the bass of the music?
Oh, absolutely. Like there's something... Every time like I do a show, I let the music tech know like high level, heavy bass, no fade in, no fade out. Like I need that bass. And you will see me all the time if I do a tech run, it's to see if I can feel the music, but also to establish where the speakers are. Because I'm like, what area is going to help me if I need to follow the music? Whereas now the way I create my art is the music is there, just another element. Instead of me following it, it accompanies me. So I just look at it a different way. Feeling it is amazing though. When you sit down and you just like feel it in your chest or in your stomach and you're just like, just vibrates and takes over. It's such a great way to like activate a different sense.
Do you think art by disabled and fat people is taken seriously by curators and event coordinators? Or do you think that we're used, much like the LGBTQIA plus community, to tick boxes for government funding?
Yeah, we're used, absolutely. And the reason why I say that is because any funding that I have been given or any opportunities that I have been given and requested to do something with Auslan or, worked for an accessible organisation, when it came to me requesting access and assistance, it was done with great difficulty. Or, a lot of producers will book me and say, we specifically want this Auslan performance, yet there's no Auslan interpreters at the event. And it's like, so you want me here and what? I'm supposed to bring my deaf fam, but they can't really get involved? You're not going to give them accessibility? I'm a token. It's performative. All organisations, all producers and cast and crew, everyone needs accessibility training. Like if you're on board for a new production, accessible training. And that needs to be repeated. And budget needs to be put aside for access. But it's not being done. It's still performative. There's still a long way to go. They think that just hiring a deaf person or hiring a different type of disabled person is enough. But it's not enough. And then they have a cry if they do book an Auslan interpreter, say, and I'm booked, and they have a cry and say, but there are no deaf people here. And it's like, because you haven't engaged with the community, doll. You don't know any deaf people. You haven't put your money where your mouth is. You haven't gone to their events or learnt from them or connected with them. So why would we come into your space when for so long we haven't been welcomed? We're not just going to come running by and get a ticket and watch the show because all of a sudden for this one show you have an Auslan interpreter. Also notice that the majority of the time that when productions do have an Auslan interpreter, say if it's like a week or 2 week long production, they will always book, or they did for a while, book Auslan interpreters on the off-peak dates. You know, it's the Sunday matinee, it's the Wednesday night. What about the Friday night? What about the Saturday night? I remember when I went to Lizzo concert, and I booked an accessible ticket. There was no Auslan interpreter, and Kudo's response was, oh, we had one yesterday. But not today. We have one yesterday, but not today. And if you have an issue with it, it's Lizzo's fault. I was like, don't tell me it's up to Lizzo with this huge team that she has. Don't tell me it's up to Lizzo to book the Auslan interpreter for every show. And they were so unapologetic about it. On top of that, they would try to speak to me whilst Lizzo was singing with loud music. It's like people have no awareness. Accessibility training and access needs to be embedded in everyone's programs, and it needs to be continuous.
That story was produced by Azrielle de Vor with mentorship from Danni Stewart. It was produced as part of the Community Media Training Organization's Audio Ability Program. AAP is currently open for applications for their 2025 cohort. If you're interested, head to cmto.org.au to learn more and apply. In our next story, queers reclaim the hiking trail in New York City. Producer Angelina investigates how policing of public spaces has made it hard for queer and trans people to access the outdoors.
More than 500 bills restricting the rights of LGBTQ+.
356 targeted assault.
Sweeping anti-trans.
Law banning gender-affirming. Criminalized drag performances in public and in front of children.
The squirrels I see in the woods don't care what my gender is. And so there's something really freeing about like being away from that and like being in a place where I can feel like I can just be myself and not have to worry about it.
A few weeks ago, on a Saturday afternoon, I met up with nearly 40 strangers at the corner of Dykeman Street and 10th Avenue in Upper Manhattan.
Long-time follower, first-time attender.
I remember feeling nervous. I came here alone.
Same. Yeah, but if you got that recommendation, why not come all the way uptown?
Most people seem to be in their mid to late 20s. A couple seem older. Someone's brought their dog. Someone's holding a cat in a sling carrier. Everyone is wearing sneakers. The vibes are tentative, a little awkward. Like, should I say something to the person next to me? Are they waiting for a friend? Then we start walking. Together. As we walk, people around me start to relax. They're chatting, getting to know each other.
And I have a roommate.
and she is currently unemployed.
I used to travel with my father, and we used to go to mountains.
Obviously, you don't want to hold people back. I'm excited to see the mansion, like where we're going to finish.
Picture this. We're going back in time. It's October 2022. I've just gone through a heart-wrenching breakup. It's a pandemic relationship, so it's like my whole world, everyone I know, we all know each other. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know any gay people, not through my relationship. And I was like, I want to find a queer walking and hiking group. Like, that sounds ideal. And lo and behold, Rebecca posted about queer walks and hikes.
I'm Rebecca. I run Queer Walks and Hikes. I'm 27 and my day job is marketing, but I do this as a hobby.
Hiking groups or outdoor activity clubs are pretty heteronormative spaces in Rebecca's experience. Her group, Queer Walks and Hikes, creates a space for the LGBTQ+ community to connect and enjoy the outdoors in each other's company.
The first walk that we did was at Shirley Chisholm State Park. It's one of New York City's parks built on a landfill. Of course, very New York. It's a garbage dump. That walk, it was just myself and somebody else. And it was somebody I knew.
Today, depending on the event, Queer Walks and Hikes receives between 12 and 40 participants. Rebecca maps out weekend routes all year long, even in the winter, and people just keep showing up.
It's not the bar scene or the club scene that a lot of queer experiences are based around.
Yeah, I would love that, yeah. I love that. She's loving this.
In Dr. Nicole Seymour's book, Strange Natures, she considers how the queer community has been shut out of environmental spaces, both ideologically and physically.
The term unnatural has been used against LGBTQ people in a lot of public discourse. And so I think that's one of the many things that has kind of alienated queer people from the natural, or made them feel alienated from the natural world.
Another thing that's alienated queer people, the history of physical violence the community has faced in public spaces. Dr. Seymour explains that there's a long history of policing behaviors like cruising.
So there is this history of people being monitored or people being, persecuted by police in nature. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of narratives that keep people away from those spaces or make them feel like, a gay bar or a lesbian bar is like more the right space for me.
Over the last few years, the political climate has become increasingly hostile toward the queer and trans communities. Discriminatory legislation is on the rise with bills that aim to ban gender-affirming healthcare for trans youth and restrict discussions on sexuality and gender identity in schools. All of this feels really heavy and unsafe, almost claustrophobic. A group like Queer Walks and Hikes offers a space for rejuvenation, for rest, a time and a place to breathe deeply and just look at the trees. A growing body of research shows that immersing yourself in green spaces like parks and woodlands can lower your blood pressure and stress hormone levels. So I imagine there's an aspect here of group self-preservation as we walk through Highbridge Park today.
So we're going to do a little loop of the grounds, and then we're going to end our walk on Sylvan Terrace right behind you. Chill.
I feel very natural in my unnaturalness, in feeling genderqueer. I feel very at home.
I think it just feels really nice to feel like a part of a community when you're on a walk like this.
Especially some of the upstate hikes, it's like you're spending all day together. So you're also quiet near each other. You might have contemplative times. You might talk at the beginning and then loop back together.
There was no coming out. I showed up and they knew I was queer.
And they love that. And that was a requirement, so they really appreciated it.
It's a gorgeous day. It's beautiful. So are you in journalism right now?
I think there's also something nice about just being able to listen to other people's stories, other people's ideas and interests, and just sort of float in and out of their conversations. It's like a low pressure way to get to know people.
I think what we've been seeing over time is LGBTQ people really like reclaiming their right to connect with nature and also recognizing more, the ways in which nature itself is queer. There's tons of documentation of, lesbian seagulls and clownfish, like Nemo, apparently can change sex when needed in their environmental context. And so, yeah, I think a lot of LGBTQ people have been hearing those narratives more and more and telling those narratives more and more and sort of, again, seeing themselves as more connected to nature than previously.
So even though this walk feels like a break, a space to rest, it's also a very political act. Queer Walks and Hikes is taking up space in this park. Together, we are visible to others, reclaiming the space that has been heavily policed. As our walk ends, the group stands around a cobbled street. It's a bit colder now than it was a couple hours ago.
Thanks for coming, and we're going to have a walk in Greenwood Cemetery next week, so April 7th. Is that next week?
People exchange phone numbers, Instagram handles. Then they start spreading out, moving toward the train or the bus, going their separate ways. At least until the next one. I was nervous at the start of this walk. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to keep up with the group. I am not an experienced hiker. I'm not very fast. But Queer Walks and Hikes has a policy. No one gets left behind, regardless of fitness level or ability.
If you wanted to ditch people, or if you wanted to go off by yourself, there was no reason for you to come on a group hike. It's the journey, it's not the destiny. You know what I mean? It's not like the accomplishment of having done a hike. It's having done a hike as part of a queer group.
Because our job isn't to do this the fastest, it's to do this together.
That story was produced by Angelina Mazza. Our final story continues to reflect upon the fraught nature of queer and trans spaces in the US, moving beyond the gay bar or lesbian club over to the beach.
What brings you to this nudie beach?
Well, this is also a gay beach, and that's why I'm here. A lot of gays hang out here. It's just a beach where it's freedom for all, That's what I think a lot of people want to do, just hang out. And, they want to be nude, they want to be gay, they can do what they want, and nobody cares. And that's why it's bad having people coming here harassing.
At Jacob Riis Park, I'm Linda Sutter for Channel 5 News.
For decades, New York queers have made the pilgrimage from city streets to Jacob Riis Park. To make the time-old journey from Bushwick, you need to get on the L train towards Canarsie Rockaway Parkway. Then you'll get on the A. Then you'll change to the S. It's the Q22 bus after that.
Please exit from the rear door. Doors open.
Then walk towards the big group of gay people, and you'll have reached your destination.
Oh, we are having a ball of a time. We're having such a lovely time. It's so nice. Every summer we come here, we have so much fun. It's so peaceful, so kind. I know, I love it here. I think it's beautiful. I want to come back every week during the summer. He's coming here since the 80s, a long, long time.
It wasn't so nice like now. It was a lot of woods over there, big building over there. a lot of rocks, but now it's better. No, it's beautiful. We always enjoy it.
She's asking if you have any memories.
It's beautiful. Every time we come, we had a good time.
Tell her the memories and then when the sun goes down.
No.
Because when the sun goes down, then we all exposed. We have no clothes on.
My name is Paul Tenenardoba McKinney. Well, I'm an adult educator, so I work in the nonprofit sector educating adult immigrants in like English and parenting classes, things like that. I'm also very funny and very hot. I'm 6'4".
How are you enjoying Riis today?
Oh, I love Riis. I come here just about every Pride. It's my favorite Pride spot. Last night, started at Marie's Crisis, went to Nowhere Bar, just hopping around, and wound up at IHOP, of all places to hop to.
Kick it off at Riis. I call that a successful party. How they know each other and they like watch The Bachelor once a week together and like.
I can only describe it for myself, but I feel like also this is such a place of like collective experience and collective memory that I'm like, I feel like it's just here for us, and I'm angry at the fucking government and the cops for threatening its existence. Like basically, so the Neponset hospital that was built as a tuberculosis hospital, but tuberculosis hospitals became less of like a public necessity, and then after that it's just been like, defunct basically, but like different like neighborhood groups and local politicians have made the argument that it's like bad to look at, it's like possibly quote unquote dangerous because the building is falling apart, but it's been fenced off, so it's not like it's crumbling onto somebody. But now the whole deal is that they're demolishing it and going to put, we're not sure what yet, into its place. And that this could be like a covert political move to put a playground, for example, has been proposed. And it's like, how are the parents going to feel about having a bunch of naked homos and trans like around their kids? And also this is, I think, a pretty conservative area, Rockaways in general, so it's just like, what are you really doing this for? But like queer and trans people have been coming here since like the 1940s, so it needs to be protected, and I feel very happy to be here, but also like trying to keep the lightness that it has allowed so many of us.
That story was produced by Danni Stewart. If you have an idea for your very own ambitious audio documentary, think about applying for the Jesse Cox Audio Fellowship. Successful applicants will get access to monetary support, as well as individualized training and mentorship to help realize their ideas. Applications are open until November 27. Head to allthebestradio.com to learn more and apply. All the Best would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we make these stories and pay our respects to elders past and present. All the Best is made at FBI Radio on Gadigal land, in association with SYN and 3RRR on Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung lands, and 8CCC on Arunde and Warramungu lands. The All the Best editorial producer is Mel Bakewell, and Phoebe Adler-Ryan is our executive producer. Our social media producer is Isabella Lee, and our social media assistant is Seth Emmerich. Patrick McKenzie is our community coordinator, and Janae Madden is our content assistant. Shining Bird composed our theme music, and Annie Hamilton designed the artwork. We're heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network, and we're made possible by the Art Gallery of New South Wales and the Community Broadcasting Foundation. You can find our full archive of more than 500 episodes at allthebestradio.com. I'm Madhura Prakash. Thanks for listening.